stream is going to be myself and Nitro doing what we do best, having a rant.
Let's do it.
More or less. So this is our review of Doctor Who season 1 of the reboot, as in like 2005 when they brought it back. Don't give me any of you are old school Whovians. If there are any of you there, don't give me the whole.
Which I learned that word today. Whovians.
Yeah,
I did not know that was a thing.
Yep, Doctor Who fans. Oh yeah, it's like every fan base has a nickname.
That's true.
Yeah, exactly. It's like but yeah, so like don't give me the whole thing of like back at the very start, New Who, not classic Who. Exactly, Dark. Exactly. We're doing New Who stuff. We're not doing old school Who. Like maybe one day we'll go back to old school Who, but we're already like 20 years on from when it rebooted. I'm like,
yeah.
Let's
when
get
you
through
said that,
that.
I was like, holy crap! Yeah, it has been almost.
Yeah, it's like 2005, and I'm like, wow. I mean, it just came back, and I'm like, no, it didn't. It's been around. There are kids today that are out of high school, that have graduated high school. The Doctor Who has been on the air since before they were born.
Good
Like came back since before they were born. I'm like, but actually, Doctor Who is a much older show. A resident Whovian. There we go. Dalek came in at the right point, by the way. Like resident Whovian coming in for this.
I know. Well, he was. Or I'm sorry, I don't want to assume, but they were popping in during the Sea of Thieves, and I was like, Trombone, Dalek. I understood the reference. I understand it now.
And that's it. That's the interesting thing about our review today. Is like I grew up on this stuff to a certain extent. Like I didn't grow up on Doctor Who as a kid. When I was younger, I saw the Paul McGann 8th Doctor movie that came out in the 90s. But without like seeing old school Who and having anything to follow up from that, there's nowhere to go. You just see a movie about this dude, and it's like, okay. But in my teens, I saw Christopher Eccleston's Doctor, and I was hooked, and I've been watching it since. And I am caught up about as far. The only things I've not seen were the most recent Doctor Who Flux, and then that most recent special that just happened, the pirate one. Because they're not on HBO Max yet, and I don't have BBC America. So I can't catch up with those just yet. So when I hit HBO Max, I'll catch up with them. But apart from that, I'm fully caught up on the recent Who. Nitro, on the other hand, none of that.
So, I'll give my background. So
he's
like
completely fresh.
I'm not even exaggerating. I have known one person in my entire life that has been a Doctor Who fan. And they were a hardcore Doctor Who fan. I knew nothing about the show. Like, I didn't even know what it was about. I didn't know it involved time travel. I didn't know who the Doctor was. I didn't know anything about the show. So I was going in completely blind. And we've done something similar before with Firefly. And I kind of knew something about Firefly going in. Like, I knew a little bit about it. But this, I legitimately did not know anything about Doctor Who going in. So I was very interested to see what it was all about. And like, I know it has just a ridiculously large fan base. So yeah, that's where I was coming from.
Yeah, so like he was coming into this, so like, so yeah, that's probably the best place to start. Then, like, had you heard inklings from it? What did you think about the fans? Like, had you heard at least the name Doctor Who as a show?
Obviously, the most prevalent image is the TARDIS, the outside of the TARDIS, the police box. So I'd seen that around a lot. I'd seen the sonic screwdriver and the Dalek, like, images of them. I had no context for any of that, so it's like, all right, so it's a phone booth, okay, get it. It's looking like something from Lost in Space robot, okay. And then it looks like, a nose hair trimmer. Okay, got it. So I'm like, I have no idea how to piece this stuff together. So, again, man, cold, 100% cold, knew nothing about Doctor Who. I knew literally nothing. I had no idea what it was about. So.
Yeah, so we're going to delve into this. We're going to talk a little bit about our thoughts on the episodes as we go. I'll tell about my kind of take on it when I first started versus now, because I rewatched a little bit of it coming into this. I didn't get to finish the whole first season rewatched because I ended up getting sick before freaking weekend started. But so we'll give our thoughts on that and different things on it. We'll talk a little bit as well about the unfortunate Good Morning guys are kind of mentioning it there. The Eccleston only stuck around for one season, a little bit of what happened with that and the sadness of that, but fantastic news that he's back doing audio drama stuff for Doctor Who, at least, so that's a foot back in the door as the Ninth Doctor. I'm still hoping they're still talking like doing a couple of specials for the 60th anniversary next year, like standalone stories for the Doctor. One of the ones I'm hoping we might get is a Ninth Doctor, like standalone, and get him back in a leather coat again, just even for a one-off.
Yeah.
But we're going to jump in then. So this was 13
episodes and 13. A Christmas special, which I did not watch because you told me not to.
Yeah, I said don't watch that because that's the full introduction to, that's the starting of David Tennant's run. Like that's the start of his. You don't need that for this one.
Which, speaking of, I mean, spoiler alert if you haven't seen it, I was not expecting him to pop up at the end of episode 13.
Yeah.
So that was a pleasant surprise.
Oh yeah, like he shows up right at the end. I mean, like that was the first big bit of controversy. It was like before the first episode of this aired in 2005, it was already announced that Eccleston had departed.
Yeah.
So like going into it, people knew Eccleston wasn't coming back as the Doctor. So if you're a Doctor Who fan, you already know that Tennant he's going to regenerate at the end of this season. Mm-hmm. Which for anyone who doesn't know, regeneration is how the Doctor sticks around, how they keep the character around.
Does he keep all of his memories from previous?
Yeah, he keeps
it.
Yeah, so going into this, he's like 903 years old, I think it is. He's a Time Lord from the planet of Gallifrey. Mm-hmm. He is a species that can travel in space and time, travelling in a TARDIS, time and relative dimension in space. Has two hearts, vascular system with two of them, which they make some jokes with, but it doesn't actually play as big a factor in anything as you would think. And yeah, basically, if he's about to die, he can regenerate his body. It does mean his face changes, it does mean there's changes to his personality, the way he thinks, to who he is. But at the core, the Doctor is still there, his memories are still there, more or less. You know, it's like he's still him. Sometimes he has to go through a period of kind of relearning himself a little bit, a lot of the Doctors do. So I think that's one of the things that's sad about this, is because this was essentially like a regeneration season for Eccleston's Doctor. Like it's his first season, you're getting used to him, he's just getting his rhythm. I would love to have seen where he went with a second season.
There was a line at the end of season 13, not to jump around a little bit, but like, because you had been filling me in a little bit on the backstory with Eccleston, you know, as I went through the series.
Yeah.
And towards the end of the episode, he looks at the lady who plays Rose, and I can't forget her name.
Oh, Billy Piper.
Yeah, he said,
phenomenal actress as well.
He was like, "You were fantastic," and he goes, "And you know what? I was too." And I felt like that was his. It was like, "Yeah, you guys are missing out."
Yeah,
like,
I always loved
anymore,
that.
And I was great.
I always loved that line because it was that self-congratulatory line, and I'm like, but yeah, you know what? He was.
I was good.
He really was a fantastic Doctor. He's always going to be one of my Doctors.
I would say if it wasn't for Eccleston, I don't know if I would have liked this show half as much.
Oh no, I think the thing is, don't get me wrong, Tennant comes in next, and Tennant is phenomenal. Tennant is like impossible not to love because he's David Tennant. He's playing a certain version of himself as the Doctor. It's like he's still David Tennant to a certain degree. It's like he's a lovable goof half the time. You can't help not love the character.
Yeah.
Because of that, I often feel like it overshadows a lot of just how good Eccleston was. Eccleston had a rough job. Like honestly, this show would not be where it is today if it wasn't for the great return that Eccleston gave it. He brought it back in such a strong footing to kick off what we're at now, which is like 14th season we're about to go into. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And for it to be at the height of popularity it's at, Doctor Who has never been this popular. Like in the UK it was seen as that daft little sci-fi show with the dodgy budget and the rubber monster suits and the, you know, it's like it had a cult following, and it's this worldwide phenomenon now. Like people know who the Doctor is, people know Doctor Who. People see that police phone box, and the first thing they think about isn't a British police phone box, they think the Doctor. Yeah. You know, it's Dalek saying, honestly, most Whovians I've met dislike Nine, and I find myself in the minority who enjoy his Doctor. I'm the same, Dalek. I love Eccleston's Doctor.
Yeah,
I think he's great. I think I love the journey he takes us on, and we're going to go into it because this was a revamp of the Doctor's whole story. So before, I don't want to delve too far into that because it kind of takes it piece by piece. We're probably not going to go episode by episode because there are 13 episodes. That's a lot to do episode by episode. But for you, what's your initial take? Now, you've seen the whole first season. Initial thoughts coming out of season 1 of Doctor Who.
So
having gone in blind, what do you think?
Yeah. So I'll be straight up. At first, like in the first episode of especially the second episode, I was like, really? Just to be super honest, the episode where they're on the spaceship and they're watching Earth blow up and all these, just like you said, I feel like it's like, people in a rubber suit, like monsters in a rubber suit type stuff. But the more the show went on in the season, especially the last half, I think is really where I think this Doctor Who season, which I haven't seen any of the other ones, but where I really feel like it hit its stride. I feel like one of the episodes that was one of my favorite was when Rose went back and saved her dad. And like that was way scaled down from the other episodes, but like you still had the Doctor and his personality, but you had Rose's story, and that was super intense, emotionally intense.
That's a really heart-wrenching episode. It really is.
Yeah, especially as a dad.
Do you know the thing I love with the Doctor in that episode? At no point does he say to her, the way to fix this is your dad has to die. Even though that's the way to fix everything that's going on in that episode, at no point does he say that to her. Yeah. He's like, he wants to make it work any other way before he resorts to that. Yeah. That's phenomenal.
So that episode, and obviously the finale, was just like awesome. The finale was awesome.
The episode that always resonates with me from this, and it was the first Eccleston episodes I ever seen, was The Empty Child. The World War II, Are You My Mummy? Yeah. That was the first episodes I ever seen of this season. Like I hadn't got into it, I wasn't into Doctor Who before, so I never watched it when it relaunched. But my friend was, and we went back to his place one Saturday and he was watching it, and these were the episodes that were on, was that 2-parter. And
yes, Trombone Dalek. That was so bad. I'm sorry, Cross. That was so bad. When I saw that, I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, like that's the thing as well though, remember it's a 2005 show.
Yeah, so I wasn't being too hard on it.
That nobody had faith in. It did not have a budget. Yeah. And then when you see where the budget went to in other episodes, you're like, I understand why you you just let that go.
Even after the trash can ate Ricky and then he showed up back in the car and Rose went to the car, I'm like, you don't see that he looks completely different? Like, he's sitting right beside he looks like he's made of plastic. I know. You don't see that?
Yeah, it's like your guy's turned out like plastic look, really. But yeah, The Empty Child though really hits home with me. There's something about that episode, and the way it tells the story, the way it's very much a Doctor Who story. It's set in that time, but it's this ongoing mystery to it as well. All this stuff taking place under air raids. Introduction of one of my favourite Doctor Who characters, Captain Jack Harkness as well. How can you not love John Barrowman as Captain Jack Harkness, the show that made him a household name, where he's essentially playing himself. Really is. And just, I will never, the moment that won me over is the moment at the end when the ambulance nanos come out and they reconstruct the child, recognising the mother. And the Doctor gets to do his "everybody lives" speech. Yeah. And like, just this once, everybody lives. Yeah. And it's like, and just the joy on his face at that. And I learned why that was such an emotional moment, because Russell T Davies didn't just bring back Doctor Who, he instigated something that had never been here before. And I had to let you know about this because I didn't know it initially, because I wasn't a Doctor Who fan. And it was my friend that told me this. Yeah, before 2005, the Time War wasn't a thing. The Time War hadn't happened. Gallifrey was there. It was in the sky. Yeah. The Time Lords were alive and well. The Daleks were their enemies across the stars. Like, they they were all alive.
Yeah.
There was no Last of the Time Lords. He was just the guy who stole a TARDIS and ran, and has been running ever since. It's like, but Eccleston had the job of carrying the weight of a Doctor with PTSD.
That's a good way to put it, actually.
A Doctor that was still fresh from the Time War, and no place that you see that better than Dalek.
Yeah.
Van Stanton's underground museum with the live Dalek.
Yeah.
And when he's locked in that room and it starts talking to him, and you see the fear, the terror in his face as he is scratching at the door to get out.
Yeah.
And the ecstasy at learning that its weapons were useless, that it was broken.
Yeah.
And watching this Doctor confronting this enemy who had caused him so much terror. I don't think another actor could have done that. I love the actors that come after Eccleston. I love Tennant. I love Smith. I love Capaldi so much.
Yeah.
I love Jodie Whittaker. They're all phenomenal versions of the Doctor. I don't think any of them could have pulled that off in that way. That their Doctors could have stood in that room in that Dalek and conveyed so much emotion.
Yeah.
So many different emotions in that moment as they did.
Yeah, he definitely chewed some scenery in that scene. Not in a bad way, in a good way. Yeah.
Like, that's a lot to get across, this version of the Doctor, because this isn't just for new fans. You've also got to draw in the Who fans from before. You're wanting to come back and keep watching Doctor Who, the ones who last seen Sylvester McCoy and Paul McGann's Doctors in the 80s and 90s. You want them to come back, but you also want these new fans to come in. And you've got to introduce them to this brand new Doctor who's got all of this stuff going on.
Yeah.
But still show that they're the Doctor.
Yeah.
That's a high order.
Yeah. Even the, I forgot what her name was, but she was a Slytherin, not Slytherin. Slytherin, that's it. When he was talking to her at the dinner table.
Yes.
Dude, that whole conversation.
Oh, that's such a good scene.
She was basically begging for her life, and he was basically like, I don't believe you. But it was just this back and forth, this tete-a-tete with her and him. And it was like compassion, and it would ebb and flow, and it was such a cool like moment in that episode.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just saying our Dalek scene as well, and how he goes from pure hatred of the Dalek and withdraws as trying to treat it with compassion, and that development and the messy reality of good and evil. Yeah. Yeah, it's not a straightforward thing. It's a lot to. Oh, one of our mods grabbed Mr. Thomas Benjamin and show him the door. I think he's walked in drunk this evening.
Got it.
But yeah, it was a lot to take in, and I've got to give credit because, like, yeah, some of the first few episodes can be a little bit cringy with some of it. Yeah. But there's a lot of darkness as well. Like, it wasn't until I rewatched that I realised, like, that second episode you talk about, like, when they were on the space station and Earth is destroyed and stuff. How many people die in that episode? Yeah. Like, I don't remember her name, but the tree, obviously she dies. Yeah. But, like, see when they go back into that room and he starts to confront, like, Cassandra, like, the amount of dead people that were on there. That's, like, when that sun visor came down. I'm like, I didn't realise just how many died. Yeah. They're like, oh my goodness.
Well, even the last episode, like, when the Daleks are going around just murdering everybody, just murking people.
Oh, yeah, like, this show doesn't pull punches, and I'm like, it opens up to all this stuff very straightforward, and it's like, and I absolutely adore it. I adore this show. And
one of the things that I really dig about it is I've always been a fan of just mythology in general, whether that's, Greek mythology, any type of mythology, comic mythology, obviously. I just love that type of environment, that type of sandbox that you can play in, because it's endless. And I feel like this has some of that, like the mythology that it brings, that it slowly drip feeds you through 13 episodes is really cool. And it can really go anywhere.
Absolutely, and I like that they don't just rush into everything. Even like if it's stuff that we know, like we don't find out. They don't say the words Time Lord until episode 2. It's not until the end of episode 2 that he actually tells Rose what happened about the big war, and then throughout the rest of the season we hear more and more about this war. It's the mythology of what's going on and what's happened to who he is doesn't come out until then.
Yeah. I mean, you didn't know the TARDIS was actually alive until the last episode.
Yeah, like they open that up and it's like she stares into the heart of the TARDIS.
Oh, it's a sweet scene, dude.
You know, it's like, and Rose stares into it and becomes that, which by the way is one of the coolest things, the whole bad thing.
That was so sweet, man. That was probably my favorite part of the show. I don't know, maybe not, but that was one of the sweetest parts.
Oh, you can say it's one of your favorite parts. Trust me when I say as well that this is a good opening season, but it gets a lot better. There's some amazing stuff it delves into.
Yeah.
There's stuff that I really wish we'd go on to see Eccleston's Doctor do later on, but you know.
Yeah, can you explain a little bit of the backstory that you were telling me for people who don't know, like what happened with Christopher Eccleston coming into this reboot?
Well, Eccleston was like one of the first off choices to be involved in it. He'd worked with Russell T Davies, the showrunner, before.
Yeah.
They'd worked together on another project. So he was all for it. He was like, yeah, absolutely. He knew a bit about Doctor Who, not vast amounts, but he learnt and stuff. He grew up in Britain, he's heard of it and stuff.
Yeah.
But apparently, he just clashed with not just Davies, but producers, showrunners, and there was a clashing early on. There's back and forth, there's different stories of kind of what happened exactly, but there was a clashing early on, and they were never able to recover from it.
Yeah.
They were never able to recover from that, and he basically just decided it wasn't a pleasant working environment.
Gotcha. That
it wasn't something to continue to be in, and decided to, step away from it. It wasn't worth sticking around. None of this really came out at the time, though. People didn't really know at the time what had happened. But yeah, he stepped away, and then after that, at the end of season 1, David Tennant stepped in, and the show just kept running. That's what the show is designed to do, is to replace the lead and keep going with it.
It's literally built to do that.
Which was amazing, because it was never originally meant to. This show's mythology was literally written as it went in that sort of sense. Because it was written originally with William Hartnell, the first Doctor, in mind. It's like they cast him and the show was written, and it was never written for anyone else to play the Doctor until he could no longer play it, and they had to get someone to step in when it was a popular show.
Yeah.
And they wrote in a way to make sure the main character could continue, and it's been going since. And it created this amazing, very unique mythos to it.
It definitely got me excited to see the next seasons, like David Tennant, Matt Smith, Capaldi, all of them, to see exactly what they do with the character that Eccleston didn't,
Yeah.
Because I really dug Eccleston in this. At first, he threw me off. At first, like in the first episode with the mannequins and the way that he was bantering back and forth with Rose. I was like, all right, I'm trying to understand this character, but he's obviously very awkward. The way that he plays him up front is very awkward, and not socially awkward, but just awkward, I think, in general. I think
that's a Doctor in general. When you start getting going in the seasons, and any Doctor Who fans in chat can correct me if they want, but it's like he's a very mouthy character. He does not stop talking.
Yeah.
And a lot of the versions of the Doctors, you're not quite sure if he's rambling or what point he's about to get to.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's very play off a cup, and then he'll turn on a whim and be completely serious on the mark, and sometimes he'll kind of cross over. Tennant's Doctor's very good at that. He'll be facing off with the big bad that he's meant to be facing, and be in the middle and just rambling through stuff. Yeah. Just chatting away.
Well, it was funny. One of the things he saw at the beginning of the episode 1, where he meets Rose for the first time. He goes, "Nice to meet you, Rose. Run for your life."
Yeah. Nice to meet you, Rose. Run for your life.
It's just really funny. I love his like you said. Yeah, I feel like he can switch on a dime, and I think that makes the show really cool.
And that was the thing as well, like that fire was what was, and kind of spoilers going ahead for it here, but Nitro's already, like, of course, went and started doing research, so he got spoilers. He's like, I wanted to see what the previous Doctors were. I really wanted to get into John Hurt's Doctor, that came before Eccleston. That looked really cool. And I'm like, yeah, he didn't show up for a while. He didn't exist until like 2013. Because Eccleston's Doctor...
You know my brain. I have a research brain. I have to look up stuff.
Because Eccleston's Doctor was meant to be the 9th Doctor. He was meant to be the one McGann regenerated into, and they were actually in talks with him to come back for the 50th. Yeah. Where the 50th anniversary was going to be where they show the Time War.
Yeah.
And they show elements of it, and it was going to be Eccleston's Doctor in the midst of the war.
Yeah.
Because he was the War Doctor.
Yeah.
And negotiations just fell through, just nothing major or serious, just it didn't work out. Which is where they brought in John Hurt, who was phenomenal actor.
Freaking beast, man.
As the War Doctor.
Old Ollivander.
Yeah. Like John Hurt, like God rest his soul, was a phenomenal actor.
So good.
But Eccleston, I think, is one of the lost gems of Doctor Who. Kind of like Paul McGann in that sense. Like, he only ever appeared like in the Doctor Who movie, and he done a lot of like the audio dramas after that, and he's got his comics and books and novels and all that. But in terms of like actual shows on TV, like he's a phenomenal Doctor that never got his just desserts because they never made more.
Yeah.
I feel the same for Eccleston. I feel like we really scratched the surface with him. What did you... I want to get into kind of like the finale and talk a lot more about that as well. I want to get into some of the kind of side characters that we get introduced to in this. Was there any other standout episodes that like stood out to you during this first one? During this season, any others that really popped out?
Yeah, unlike you, I didn't really connect with the Empty Child episodes that much. The two-parter. I think for me, the one where she met her dad, Father's Day, episode 8.
That's
which I love the fact that they are playing Rick Astley in his car, Never Gonna Give You Up. I was like, yes. But and then obviously the finale was like, I think that for me the finale was leagues above every other episode, like leaps and bounds above every other episode. There were a couple episodes that for me just kind of missed. Like for me, the second one when they were watching the Earth blow up, I wasn't a huge fan of that one. Also, the Long Game, the one where Simon Pegg was in it, or wasn't it?
That one
episode.
That one's not a phenomenal episode for me. A big part of that is because Adam. I know he's only like a tag along for a couple of episodes, but he was pointless.
Dude, can I say that they did Ricky wrong in this show? Man, they dogged on him. I'm like, come on, man, give the dude a break.
Do you know how much do I know how much they dogged on him?
What?
You keep calling him Ricky. His name's Mickey.
Oh yeah, it is Mickey.
That's how much he dogged on him.
You're totally right. Oh my gosh!
Literally, the character is known in the fandom as Mickey the Idiot. Like legitimately. And Dalek.
I honestly felt bad for him.
Dalek, don't worry, by the way, if you mention episodes that are ahead, it's fine. I mean, the guy's getting into a 20-year-old show.
Yeah.
Trying to avoid spoilers. Like, some stuff is going to come up eventually. It's going to happen at this point. Like, it'd be different if it's like, you kept calling him Ricky, and I'm like, I'm going to wait. I'm just going to wait on that.
Dude, I felt so bad for him, though, man. It's like, I get it. He was kind of a loser, but still.
He's not just a loser, though. That's the thing. It's like, and I feel sorry. He gets better in later seasons, but in this first season, like Mickey the Idiot is useless. He's utterly useless.
He really is, actually.
He's so bad. The TARDIS has already disappeared, and he still runs into the metal fence behind it. It's already gone. Stop running, you.
So I got a question. So do some of the characters continue on into further seasons, like the lady who plays Rose, and I guess Ricky Bobby?
Yes, you will see Rose's companion going into season 2. I'll tell you that much because she's still with David Tennant's Doctor. She carries on into the next season, and of course we still see like her friends and family around her. So you'll still see her mom. You'll still see Mickey. You'll still see So these characters all kind of reoccur.
Okay.
Okay, but like he played that character well, and that helped keep the plot moving, even during the cringe scenes such as the trash bin. He still isn't the most useless character either. He's not the most useless character, but like, and that's in season 1. I would say like he's about one of the most useless characters in the show. He gets so much better later on. Like he's toned back a lot going forward. But in season 1, like he's really, really bad. Like it's like you are literally a walking toddler. How in the world are you a man-sized toddler and functioning? Like I know you're like meant to be 19, but like, son, come on, please.
A couple of a couple of not huge issues that I had, but like for me, those alien costumes in Aliens in London, those are unforgivable. I mean, they were really bad.
What ones?
That being said, the big
Slovene.
Oh my god.
They get better. Don't worry. The Slovene aren't.
I will say though, that being said, the episode that they first show up in, which is I think is episode 4, Aliens in London, when the spaceship crashes and hits the Big Ben, all that stuff. I think that's one of the best episodes.
Yeah.
Just to hit the Doctor's interaction with Rose's family. You know, when he busts into the room full of the TARDIS lands in like a storage room in a police station, and he busts in, and there's all these cops, or all these.
It's so well done.
It's so good, dude.
It's so. Don't get me wrong. The Slovene are very. Again, I feel like the show's very much a basic. It was a running point, which is why I wanted to see more of what Eccleston can do, because there's so much better stuff that comes later.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dalek absolutely agrees as well. Like, how in the world is Rose still with Mickey? Like I know you're not trying to live your peak life yet, Rose. You're still to discover just how amazing you are. But like, I mean, come on, look at him and look at you. Like, really?
Well, dude, at the end, like when she's going back into the TARDIS, he's like, "There's nothing left for you, nothing," and immediately she's like, "Nope."
Yeah, she's like, "No."
I'm like, "Well, shoot."
I'm gonna say, "Well, yeah, she's traveling with the Doctor and Jack Harkness." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good. I'll be fine." I used to be able to spell Raxacoricofallabatorius. I almost got through it in one go there. It's
wow, you almost did. That was impressive, dude. That is impressive.
I used to be able to say that without an issue. Like, I could just like rattle it off. Raxacoricofallabatorius.
Good grief, dude.
But like the spelling of it, I was not as good at. But like I could rattle it off like he could say it, and but yeah, those are really good episodes as well. And also, I love the whole Harriet Jones. You'll see her reappear again as well.
Harriet Jones, MP, Fly Del North. That's hilarious, dude.
She reoccurs.
How many times I'm gonna say that? That was great.
But yeah, like there's some amazing stuff in this first season. There's amazing spots of what awesome stuff there was to come.
Yeah.
In this show, and it's done so well.
Yeah, the really good parts for me way outweighed the "oh my lord, what am I watching" parts.
Yeah.
You know, like the trash can and the Celadine suits. I'm just like, oh.
You kind of need. I think at that point as well, you kind of almost take yourself with a pinch of salt. If you're a Doctor Who fan and you know you're expecting the weird costumes and different things, and even the designs and the CGI and all that stuff and the costumes, they get better. As more money gets pumped in, it gets a lot better. Obviously,
like you said, it's 20 years old. Like so I'm taking that into account as well. Like the effects that we had in 2005 for a TV show, a pilot of a TV show, are not that great. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
So I totally get that.
Well, that's it. And remember as well, like they kind of tried to reboot and restart Doctor Who a few times in a few different ways. Like the movie with Paul McGann was meant to be a kind of American reboot with Americans taking over, and then they tried another couple, one of which was actually an animated one. I think it's Shriek of the Shulker or something like that, and it actually starred Richard D. Grant as the 9th Doctor.
Oh, okay.
And it was released and completely and utterly just went nowhere because like almost like a couple of weeks I think it was after it came out, like they announced the reboot of the new one with Christopher Eccleston. And yes, absolutely, Dalek. The whole reappearance and character arc they end up doing with Harriet Jones is phenomenal. No. That's coming up soon. Don't you think she looks tired? Yeah, that's going to be something that's coming up soon. Like, it's such a good story arc for it. It's so well done. But yeah, there's so many great characters that appear here as well. Can I just say as well, like, one thing I want to mention, like, she kind of appears and she's kind of a pain in the butt, Rose's mom. Not exactly a breakout character, except on the actress for pulling that character off. She slaps the doctor full force.
Well, dude, it's funny. In the first episode, she goes, "There's a man," and
that's literally what I was going to mention.
Goes,
yes, there is. I love it. It's like, there's a man in my bedroom. Yes, there is. What is that? I mean, like my night dress. Like, yes, you are. Anything could happen. And he just goes,
no.
Yeah. And he just walks away. That right there. If I hadn't been sold on Eccleston before, that line would have sold me on him as a doctor. I'm like, no. But yeah. But even then, you kind of grow to love, like, Jackie as well. Jackie Tyler, God bless her.
She kind of redeems herself towards the end of the show, though.
Yeah, she just
helps her pull the TARDIS open and all that stuff.
But that's it. She's just a mom that's worried about her daughter.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the character to talk about then, though. Side characters. Someone else who has to get as much credit for Christopher Eccleston is making this work is Rose Tyler.
Man, she was excellent, dude.
And I will say it, for seasons to come, she sets a standard of companion. And I think it's like she's almost over-talked to a point now. I think some of the fan base are kind of sick of it because it's over-talked a little bit, but kudos to Billie Piper. She'd done such a phenomenal job in this role. And she wasn't a big-time actress at this point. She'd done a couple of acting things, I think. She'd actually been a pop star in the UK. And I tried to have a burgeoning pop career and switched over to acting.
Yeah.
And then, of course, did Doctor Who, and it just took off and people knew who she was.
Yeah.
It was excellent. You need to head out, Dalek. If you want to catch the rest of us talking about it, we'll be posting it up on YouTube and stuff like that, and up on our where our podcasts are online. So you can definitely catch the rest of it. But we'd love to have you hang out in our Discord or social media if you want to talk more Doctor Who. I'm all for that. But you have an absolutely amazing night, sweetheart. Thank you for chatting so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think a lot of credit has to be given to Rose Tyler and to Billie Piper for just as important as the Doctor is the companion that travels with the Doctor.
Can I say how refreshing it was for them? I mean, obviously until the last moment, which I don't know if that was necessarily romantic. That was just kind of like a ceiling there, friendship type thing. But can I say how much I appreciated them not really having a romantic relationship, even though there were hints and stuff like that? Like, for the most part,
I think there was hints, because when I originally watched this show, I thought there was meant to be maybe a little romantic thing there.
Yeah.
But watching it back in recent years and then again recently for this, I think it's definitely one-sided. I think he loves her.
Okay.
But not in that way.
Yeah. Like
he adores her and I think there's definitely somewhere between friendship, somewhere between student and mentor.
Yeah, I would agree.
Relationship there. I think he loves her, like he's close with her, he feels responsible for her.
Yeah.
It's like he cares for her, like they'll get on, chat, have a blast together. I think she's definitely got a crush there. I don't think it's definitely not one of those, ooh, I'm in love with him.
Yeah.
But I think the more she saw the world through his eyes, I think it opened her up to so much. And she started kind of falling for that a little, I believe. But I kind of agree with you. I don't think the kiss at the end of the finale, when he takes that power out of her, I don't think that's in a romantic way.
No, I don't. It was kind of like we had our time together. Like, this is kind of like a goodbye type thing.
Yeah, it was like
I even if there was like a slight romantic, which I don't disagree with you actually. It wasn't the focus of their relationship, which I appreciated,
Yeah, that definitely
I think that would be a very easy thing to do.
It definitely wasn't, and I kind of appreciate that because I don't think with Eccleston it would have worked that way. Not that he couldn't do a romantic storyline with his doctor, but they clearly show him like he's not against that. I mean, like in the second episode alone, you see him flirting with the tree. Like the two of them are he's quite happily flirting and stuff. He's quite clearly not against romantic feelings.
Yeah.
If you know your Doctor Who lore, the Doctor's had a family before.
Yeah.
I mean, the first Doctor, William Hartnell, travelled with his granddaughter. You know what I mean? It's like he's done the family thing before in the past. He's had family. He's had people around him. So like he's clearly had romantic attachments before.
Yeah.
But I like that they don't just dive into that with this one. It's like, because I think I saw the romantic interest from her initially, and I thought there might be. But at least with Eccleston, no, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't think it was meant to be like that, and I don't think it needs to be like that.
I agree. She was fantastic, though. I'm gonna be straight up. I know you had mentioned Captain Jack earlier, and like I liked his character. I don't know. I couldn't connect with that character that much because I was like, who is this dude? And they might have explained it, and I just missed it. I'm like,
Captain Jack.
How is he important?
You have to
How is he
pay
important
attention
to the show. Like, yeah.
He becomes big to the lore of the show. He actually ends up following on from this. Have you ever heard of Torchwood?
Yeah.
Torchwood's the spin-off of Doctor Who, and it's led by Captain Jack Harkness. Because what you find out is Captain Jack is originally from the 51st century. He's from the future.
Okay.
That was kind of one of the introductions for him. Is he's someone that's kind of on par with the Doctor, but from a human level.
Yeah.
Because he knows a lot of the future stuff. He knows a lot of the technology. He knows a lot of the stuff. He can talk to the Doctor on that level. Which, by the way, if there's any romantic interest in that show, it is 100% the two of them. The Doctor and Jack in Boomtown.
Oh, yeah.
Their flirting back and forward is phenomenal. I love it. It's like that. Why don't you ever buy me anything pretty? Take me out somewhere nice. Like, I love it. Yeah. Because you know for a fact Jack has a crush on him, but you're never quite sure if the Doctor returns it or if he's just winding him up. And I kind of love I kind of love he just plays into that. But yeah, so Jack, basically Jack, the whole thing is that Jack is a former time agent.
Okay.
And he's actually lost a lot of his memories.
So how's that different from the Doctor? Well,
the Doctor's from an alien, another planet, does all this stuff. Jack is human. He uses what the time agency uses, like the device on his wrist.
Okay.
Which I think the Doctor ends up later on in the series describing it as like, that's like saying I've got a sports car and you've got like a space hopper, like one of the bouncy hoppers. Like, it's not the same thing time travel wise, you know. It's so Jack's kind of like that sort of character. And he turns out to be a con man. He's lost his memories. He's been a con man, fleecing stuff, and then he meets the Doctor, and the Doctor turns him into a good man again.
Gotcha.
And then he gets killed. Obviously, spoilers for the end of season 1. He gets killed by the Dalek. Except he doesn't.
Yeah. Because
Rose brings him back. What you don't know yet, though, is now Jack Harkness can't die.
Really?
He comes back, and in Torchwood you see it as well. In the first episode of Torchwood, he takes a bullet to the head and he stands up.
Dang.
Whatever Rose did, she couldn't control the power of the TARDIS, so she filled him with life. She didn't know when to stop. So every time he dies, he comes back, and he didn't realise at first. He just like, okay, what's going on? Every time he dies, he's like, what's happening? And then kind of realised, I can't actually die.
So does Torchwood take place right after that season of Doctor Who?
It kind of interlocks, so like it takes place after. Yeah, it takes place after this season, and then like he makes a reappearance in Doctor Who, and then season 2 of Torchwood takes place after that like reappearance.
Okay.
And Torchwood is kind of like meant to be more of the adult show. It covers a lot more a lot darker stuff, a lot more adult stuff, but it's based in Cardiff where the Rift is.
Got it.
And it's him working with a team to deal with whatever comes through the Rift.
Oh, okay.
It's a really cool show. I loved it.
Dude, I gotta check it out, man.
I love Torchwood. It up. I really love Torchwood.
I've heard of Torchwood. I didn't know it had anything to do with Doctor Who. So
you know why it's called Torchwood?
Why? It's
an anagram. Doctor Who.
Oh.
That's where the name Torchwood came from. It's an anagram of Doctor Who.
That's awesome.
But yeah, definitely check out Torchwood. Torchwood's phenomenal. And you get to see a lot more of John Barrowman as Jack Harkness, which I fell in love with him. It's like, I think I fell more in love with Jack Harkness than I did John Barrowman. I kind of got fed up of John Barrowman off screen after that.
Who's John Barrowman?
I think most Americans know him for he was in Arrow. He played Merlin in that.
Okay.
And CW's Arrow. He's done a few other things like movies and stuff. But his big thing that got him noticed in the UK is like, because he's got an American accent, but he's actually originally from Scotland.
I was about to say he's Scottish. Okay.
He's Scottish. He raised in America, came back to the UK, but like Jack Harkness was like his big breakout role. So like this is the beginning of like, because that's the thing, Russell T Davies was like world building.
Yeah.
And he ends up after season 2 of Doctor Who gets like spin-off shows for Doctor Who.
Gotcha. So are there any other spin-off shows?
The other one is Sarah Jane Adventures, which was it was more of a kids show. It was for children's CBBC.
Okay.
But it's basically featured around Elizabeth Sladen, the actual actress, who was a companion for the Doctor.
Okay.
She was a companion for the fourth and fourth Doctors, like back in the original show.
Yeah.
Back when she was like Rose's age, but she's now like in her 50s.
Yeah.
Which Elizabeth Sladen, God rest her as well, passed away as well a few years ago. But she like basically is. I never really watched the show, but she's doing her own thing and it's her own sort of stuff. A lot of the Slovene kind of apparently appear in it and stuff as well, and
yeah.
But it's more meant as a kiddie thing. But the Doctor does appear in it a few times.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it was another spin-off for that, which, you know, kudos to her. The fact that because she makes a comeback, it's like basically they're both pitched off of the new Doctor Who. So in season 2, you do get to see Elizabeth Sladen come in, and make an appearance and meet up with David Tennant's Doctor, which is really cool.
Yeah,
because it's really like cool to see her and like it's actually her. It's Sarah Jane. It's like who travelled with John Pertwee and Tom Baker's Doctors. It's phenomenal to see, like, just to see that continuity of them coming back. I'm like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's really cool though. I didn't know they had world building like that. I'm gonna have to check out Torchwood.
Yeah, Torchwood is really cool. Don't get excited for the end of season 4, Miracle Day, because they ended it on a cliffhanger that never.
Oh, that's great. I love when that happens.
Because they ended it. The annoying thing is they did not need to end it on a cliffhanger, but they ended it with all this stuff and then just did nothing with it because Russell T Davies left. He was done at the time. It was the end of his Doctor Who run, so like it never got picked up for anything else. And it was like, okay, we're just not going to do anything. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of world building, and that's one of the things I love about Doctor Who, and it's one of the things you love about comics, so you'll probably love about it as well.
Yeah,
is there's so much world building that takes place.
That was one of my favorite things about this show. It's just like I said, the mythology. Like again, it was like a slow drip throughout the episodes. Like you said, they don't reveal everything all at once, which I really appreciated.
Yeah, there's so much world building, so much mythology. For you coming in as a new fan, there's so much stuff in the past to learn about that will start getting dripped through as needed, but there's all this stuff that's still to come that builds this world. Like some of my favourite stuff to come, and not to spoil too much because I want you to go in fresh, is Doctor Who does this amazing thing in certain episodes of taking things that are everyday things that you don't think about and putting a twist on it. And making it this supernatural or spooky or some monster thing or something you've never thought about, or you know, it's like, why do human beings have an innate fear of the dark? Well, it's not this innate fear of the dark. It's actually a real reason that we should be scared of the dark. And you know, what's that dust that you see floating through sunlight and when it flows through your window and different things like that. It's like, you know, do you ever get that feeling of like hair in the back of your neck? And I love, you know, creepy stuff like that of like, you know, if you look in a mirror and you see something move behind you but there's nothing there, it's like, oh well, there was actually something in the mirror that moved. And like things like that where it's like it's not quite horror, but it just kind of gets you on edge, and I'm like, I love that stuff. And Doctor Who's got amazing moments like that, but it's also got these amazing galaxy building, universe building, to look at this amazing future, but also to go back and like, you know, we're going to go and see the 51st century and see all these galaxies that humans are now inhabiting. But also, what's Shakespeare like? Let's go have what's happening in the world of Shakespeare. Cool. Let's go have a conversation with it. You know what I mean? It's like it was
cool. The episode with Charles Dickens was really cool.
Charles Dickens is an amazing episode. top props to the actor that played Charles Dickens. By
Dude,
the way.
I feel like he's in everything. I don't know that dude's name, but he's in everything.
Oh yeah, he's in a ton of stuff, but he's a phenomenal actor, and he was perfect for it. I do love the carriage ride with him though, like when he's going off at the Doctor, like stealing his carriage and all this. Like, you're Charles Dickens, you're brilliant. I absolutely love you. It's like, do you want me to get rid of the man, sir? No, he can stay.
No, he can stay. Did my writings last? He's like forever.
Yeah, so do last really forever. Fun enough as well for anyone who's still hanging about, to do a crossover with what the ladies were speaking about earlier, a bit about Agatha Christie that Jay's reading. The Doctor at one point meets Agatha Christie, which is a really cool episode as well. But like, there's so much in Doctor Who. Like, it's one of those things, the world's open. If you want to go and visit something, go for it. If you want to create something brand new, go for it. If you want to delve into something, go for it. My only thing is they need to be careful that they don't Joker themselves. And that's, as in, like, you know, we've talked about plenty of times the fact of, like, how awesome the Joker is as a villain in Batman.
I love how you use that as a verb.
Because it's became that.
Don't Joker yourself. I know exactly what you mean, though. It's
like, don't overuse the amazing villain, because the more you overuse them, the less amazing they become.
Yeah, and Doctor Who,
Daleks, yes, and then there's some other villains I'm not going to spoil who they reappear just too often.
Yeah.
Some they do okay with, others it's like, no, stop. Think of something new. You need to give them a break. But Daleks are a big one. The Daleks appear almost like every season practically. Like there's breaks from them. They don't appear every single season.
Yeah.
But there's at least a story that involves a Dalek at some point, and it's like, would you just stop? They're not scary if you keep showing me them.
Yeah.
It's a wheelie bin with a plunger on the end. It's like, you need to make it more threatening, and
with a pile of snot on the inside and an eyeball.
Exactly. It's like, it's like less is more. Less is more with them.
Yeah, like, I agree. Like, if you wouldn't have shown the inside of that Dalek that Rose was talking to, and you would have just kept it more mysterious, I think they would have been way more intimidating.
I think they got away with it with that one. Like, with that one, because of the story they were telling with Dalek, but I think they showed enough in that to give you a threat of how much one Dalek can do. Because they had to tell you the threat of when you go, holy crap, there's all these spaceships that are full of Dalek.
There's hundreds of thousands of these dudes.
And the Emperor of the Daleks, who now thinks he's a god,
apparently,
brought them back. It's like, that's to tell a threat.
Properly freaky, yeah.
That's to tell a threat and to tell who they are and what they are. Like, use it sparingly. Like, you could literally go 3 seasons without a Dalek, and all of a sudden, wait, they're back. You know.
One of the issues that I had, I think, with the show, and it's not a huge issue, I can absolutely overlook it, but like, when, you know, there's a ton of movies, there's a ton of TV shows that talk about time travel, that deal with time travel, and there's always an element of you don't want to interfere with the past to some level, to some extent, and the amount that they do that in this show is crazy. Like, and the amount, like, and no thought or second thought is really given to the amount that they kind of change stuff in the past.
They
but
kind of
one instance with her and her dad, that was like a huge deal, and I'm like, but all this other stuff was way more intense that you did.
Well, the Doctor kind of talks about that in upcoming episodes a little bit. There is still a whole element of, you just need to, like, because the whole thing from the Doctor is like, this is what his people do.
Yeah.
This is what the Time Lords do. They monitor and travel the timeline. So they have a understanding of what they're doing. Like, the way his mind processes stuff is so much larger, and it's like, he understands stuff. But there's moments that are in flux, which is most of the time. It's in flux, and it's like, it can be changed, you know. Like for example, the one when the Slovene ship crashes.
Yeah.
And it's like, did you know this was going to happen? It's like, nope. Things change all the time. This is first contact. Here we go. It's like, you know, I wasn't expecting it, but it's changing. Yeah. But then there's other moments that are fixed points in time, where he's like, these have to happen, and I cannot change it. And it brings up there's great episodes that bring up a moral quandary with the Doctor in those ones, where it's like, I can't change this situation.
Yeah.
I can't, because, you know, what effect this will have on this and this and this. There's actually an amazing old episode of Doctor Who, well, there were serials back then, but there's a Tom Baker one called Genesis of the Daleks. And the whole point is that he goes back to their home world, Skaro.
Yeah.
Way back before the Daleks were created, and meets Davros, their creator.
Yeah.
And is there when the Daleks are about to be created. And he has the opportunity to destroy it. To stop the Daleks from ever having existed. And he takes a moment and he stops and he thinks. And he goes, do I have the right to do this? Yes, they caused all this destruction, but all the worlds that united, all the bonds that were made, all the things that were birthed out of this, all the hope, all this other stuff that was created because they stood against the Daleks, will never exist if they are never born.
Yeah.
What happens if I destroy all of that? So there are moments where he does question that stuff. A lot of it is a case of you just have to go, hey, we're in the past, hey, it's fine.
Yeah.
Don't question anything, it'll be fine, you know. But there are real threats as well to that though as well, because you're like, if there's a past, it's like it doesn't just self-correct. You know, like in the Charles Dickens one, it's like it's not just going to self-correct. Like, oh yeah, the ghosts all disappear. It's like, no, they could take over the world and the world's ruined forever and the future never happens.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's an interesting way of like affecting that stuff, but still keeping it. You know, it's like it's a weekly threat that you're watching in the show, and it's still like I can still feel the anticipation of like, oh, there's a bit of, you know, something could happen here.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, there is a little bit of it you have to take as a grain of salt, but that's the closest they kind of get to explaining that.
Well, no, that makes sense, and like I said, like I'm not unreasonable. I can overlook some stuff if you're just like, that's just the way it is in this universe. You know, it is what it is. I'm totally 100% cool with that.
Yeah, because I think that's it. Because Martha, one of the future companions, actually asks the Doctor that, like the first time she travels back in time with him, she goes like that. It's like, wait, what happens if I step on a butterfly? You know, it's like, what do you mean? What if I step on a butterfly and it's going to like affect this, you know, all the stuff in the world and cause apocalypse and chaos? And it's like, don't step on a butterfly then. What have you got against butterflies? You know what I mean? It's like, it's almost like it's a second, not even a second thought to it. Like, what? What are you talking about? What? Wait. What's wrong with butterfly? What's going on?
What do you have against butterflies?
Just VD talking about the Dalek thing, saying, but also Dalek's reputation is a big bad nemesis of the Time Lords after the Doctor alone wins them. Time and time again, just it doesn't work out. Like, yeah, and that's the thing though, it's like, but even that gets a bit old, of like, because, you know, the Doctor beats the Daleks and like, and then all of a sudden, like, I wiped them all out and here they are again. Yeah, and it's that was
the thing. Like, I know they come back, but he literally wiped them all out in the last episode of this reboot.
Yeah. So
like,
up to a certain point, they kind of explain it.
Yeah.
And then after a certain point, it's kind of like just accept they're back. like
we're gonna Joker this, okay? So just sit back,
literally,
relax, and enjoy the show.
The next few appearances of Daleks you see as you watch, it's well contained, it's well done, it's believable.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's a cool idea, that could work.
Yeah.
And then after that, it starts to get to the point, I think after like season 4 or 5, they just kind of show up without much explanation, and it's like, okay, you need to give me something.
Yeah.
Like, it's anything. Give me something. Come on, people. No, okay.
She must have seen the butterfly effect.
She must have seen the butterfly effect, yeah. Well, I think that's what she was trying to reference. I just love the way that he's like, wait, what?
Why would you step on a butterfly?
But yeah.
Alright, so can you explain to me, because I still didn't get this even when Rose was talking about it. And I had mentioned this to you in a message that I sent you this week. Bad Wolf. What is that all about? Like, I still don't understand that.
That's the being that Rose becomes.
Oh, okay.
His name is Bad Wolf. And it's the name in the space station. It's the name she names herself.
Yeah.
But she takes the words and she scatters them throughout time and space to draw her to this point. Like the whole thing is like as a message to draw Rose to come back, and it works even if you think about it. Like when the Doctor initiates the program to send her home, she starts seeing Bad Wolf.
Yeah.
Like around there, of like no, like almost encouraging her, like you have to go back.
Yeah.
And it's like the whole thing is being like it's this coming to this point, coming to this moment. Which can we just talk about that finale as well?
Dude, finale.
Like the space station, like the amount of layers to that. Like first of all, one of the episodes you talked about, the long game. Did you have a clue that was setting up for the finale?
No, and that's why I was hesitant to say that I wasn't a huge fan of that episode.
Because the whole point of it, because I almost think that was written almost like a throwaway episode.
Yeah.
On purpose, so that you would be like, wait, what? Like Satellite 5, he takes out the alien running it, he puts the humans back on track, and then it's like, and I love that the blame comes back to him for that, because the chick that he finds is like, no, that's when everything went wrong.
Yeah.
There was just dead silence because Satellite 5 controlled the news, told us everything.
Yeah.
And then there was nothing, and it was like, so that's when the Dalek Emperor came in and created all the game shows and started having humans compete and started like breaking them down to create his new Dalek army.
Yeah, that's nuts, dude. That was crazy. That was I wrote notes for each episode. Some of the episodes I have like one line, but one of the first sentences I have for episode 13 was that it was pretty disturbing.
Yeah.
Like just going through they are harvesting humans to build Daleks, whatever.
Which I loved that concept so much because the Doctor even says it himself at one point, like they're self-hating Daleks. Because anything that isn't pure Dalek is an abomination to them.
Yeah, and they start going abomination or blasphemy.
But that's it. It's like anything that's not pure Dalek is an abomination. So in their own eyes, they aren't even pure Dalek. They're abominations. They're not worthy. And I like it. Is that blasphemy? And I'm like, when did the Daleks have a concept of blasphemy? When did the Daleks have a concept of a god?
Yeah. And
that's when obviously the Emperor's like, I am their god. I reached into the darkness and I pulled out life.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, I can see how that would have gone to your head, pal. Yep. That's. But can I just say as well, I love the 2005 dated like game shows they get thrown into as well.
Hilarious.
At the start of it, because they get thrown into the game shows at the start, and like the Doctor goes into Big Brother, which I love, because obviously Big Brother was still like one of the big things at the time, because it was 2005, so it was like what 5 years old at that point in the UK. Yeah. I think the first UK one was like in 2000, so yeah, it's like 5-6 years old. Rose gets put in the weakest link. Which, you know, if you live in the UK at this point, you have no clue what that is. That show died a death a long time ago. America brought it back recently, though.
Yeah.
Because
I'm familiar with the show. I never really watched it, but I'm definitely familiar with it.
It was a hit and a half in the UK for a long time. Yeah. It even got a PlayStation 2 game.
Dang.
Like, seriously, it was on the PlayStation 2. It was literally just a quiz. But like it's like it took off for a while, so like I wasn't surprised. Like in that time and era, that's why that appears.
Yeah.
And then of course Jack Harkness appears in a show where he gets naked.
Of course.
Because he's Jack Harkness and that's what he does.
I love how he's just like, that's right. This is me.
I aspire to have the confidence in every part of my life that Jack Harkness has about anything.
Dude, it was awesome. He was never ashamed, never put out. He was just like, you know, it is me. It is what it is, man.
He's like, I know what I got. It's like, ladies, your viewing numbers just went up.
Just went up.
It's like, wow. Like that's some confidence right there.
Yeah, and then one thing that really popped out to me about that one sequence was the way that he just puts his hand on the robot. In a very precarious situation. I'm like, all right, I guess we're doing this.
Well, let's just put it this way: Jack would.
Yeah.
I don't know if it came across at this point to you, but like, basically, he'll jump anything.
Yeah.
As apparently at that point in the 51st century, most humans would.
Yeah.
So, like, So yeah, that's not really a factor for him. It's quite funny when he actually makes reappearances in Doctor Who. He gets called up on it. Like, he literally says hi to people and the Doctor tells him off. He's like, "Hi, Captain Jack Hartnett." It's like, "Stop it." Like, "I'm just saying hi." It's like, "Stop flirting. I'm just saying hi. For you, that's flirting."
Yeah, because at first I was like, "Is that? Yeah, he's okay." I just want to make sure.
Just with if it's an option, it's an option.
Yeah.
Everything's an option for Jack. Jack is an equal opportunity sex pest.
Sex pest. Yeah, I wrote, so like I'm going back through my notes, and on the first episode I wrote, "This show is bonkers." I said it is campy, but I feel like they lean into the camp. And
yeah,
I can appreciate that. Like, I can.
Do you know what it is for me? It's comic book campness. In the sense of, like, you know, people who get really, like, comic book movies, like superhero movies, need to be dark and gritty and serious, and I'm like, you realise this is a comic book, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's almost this thing of, like, you remember these are meant to have a little bit of campiness to them, a little bit of corniness. That's okay. That's kind of like what they're meant to do.
Yeah.
It's almost the same with Doctor Who, like, as a sci-fi show. It's like that. You remember this is meant to be like campy and sci-fi, weird wibbly wobbly sort of stuff. Like, it's not meant to be fully serious, you know.
Yeah.
And and I love that it leans into that heavy. That there is.
Yeah.
It doesn't. There's a heavy, like, comedy part to it, but it doesn't take away from the serious stuff either. I don't feel.
Well, I think it adds to it. Like, when you're in that comedy and there's like a running comedy, but when the serious parts hit, they really hit.
Yeah.
Especially, again, I keep going to the last episode. The last episode, especially like the last half of the last episode.
Can we as well talk about
crazy.
that? Basically, the whole thing is the Doctor sends Rose away in the TARDIS, which I think that's the big thing to take on board, isn't it? Just the fact he sends Rose away to keep her safe, but he sends the TARDIS away.
Yeah.
Like, okay, yes, to keep it out of Dalek hands, but like, that's a weapon you could use.
Yeah.
And starts building a weapon to destroy them. Where basically Jack's whole thing is get weapons, arm as many people as possible, and hope we survive long enough till the Doctor's done.
Yeah. Can we say how bad of a shot everybody was, except that one person who managed to hit one of the
Managed to hit a Dalek's knob.
Can we comment on that?
Yeah, well, that's if you got a bunch of people that are work TV channels for a living to go there. Here, shoot a gun. Like, it isn't America.
No, that's true. That's true.
You know,
Like, good lord, not one person get hit.
But that's it though. Like, Jack's like the last line of defense because he's like the literally only trained person here that knows what to do. And then I love the fact that he's like right outside with the Doctor is running backwards as the last man is.
Yeah.
After we've just watched all these people slaughtered, and I love that all the people that don't. I love the guilt trip and everything. Jack goes down to get them weapons and says, "If you hear us fighting up there and dying up there, stay quiet."
Yeah.
It's like, don't make a sound and maybe you'll live.
Yeah.
And then the Daleks just go down for no reason except to check.
Yeah. Dude, when they floated outside of the ship, when that chick was I forgot
What's her
what she
name?
was.
Lizzie? Is it Lizzie?
Yeah. Dude, when they were floating
I
outside
feel
the
so
ship,
bad for her. She's so sweet. She's
know.
such a sweet little sweetheart. It's like, oh. And he showed up. I was like, no.
Yeah.
Because I felt like the Doctor really, really cared for her as well. It was like everybody on that died, and then even when Jack dies at first, because like, you don't know Jack's coming back at first. It's like,
Yeah.
oh,
Holy crap! Yeah.
like, crap. Even Jack's dead. He was a companion. He
Yeah.
was a companion to the Doctor at this point. And it's like, it's literally him. It's the Doctor
Yeah.
against them, and I love the line. It's like killer or coward. And he throws it down and says coward.
Yeah.
Every time. That line for me, like in recent watchings back of us over the years, has been so freaking powerful.
Yeah.
This is a man who didn't just fight in the Time War. This is a man that ended the Time War.
Mm-hmm.
He pushed the button. that ended his own people and the Daleks.
Yeah.
And in that moment, he's like, never again.
Yeah.
Like, that is just a monumental, whoa,
Yeah.
choice. Like, he knows what that means, and he's like, I literally can't do it again.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, dang, you've got some acting chops on you, Chris.
Yeah,
you
dude,
really do.
Oh, and also, like, the one scene where Rose is at the cafe with her mom and her Ricky Bobby, and she's like, man,
I love how you just got a Ricky now.
She, she's obviously torn. She wants to go back. She didn't know how to go back.
I'm sorry, I just totally remember the doctor joke about Ricky there. I'm sorry.
Oh.
It's like that. It's like, hello, Ricky, and it's like, it's Mickey. Ricky. Like, I think I know my own name. You think you know your own name? How stupid are you?
Oh my gosh, he just busts his chops, man.
Like, that just came back to me there and I couldn't hold it in. That was
But she, so she's at the table and she says, you don't just give up. You don't just let things happen. You make a stand. You say no. You have the guts to do what's right when everybody just runs away. So, like, I feel like, because in that moment, the doctor was struggling with his decision. Do I just basically kill everybody?
Yeah.
To save everybody? And then she's like, no. She's basically turning into a Doctor Who at that moment, and he's stepping down from the mantle. It's almost like they're switching places. I don't know if that makes sense, Like,
yeah,
she's taking his spot as the savior of the universe, and he's taking a step back and letting her do that.
Yeah, because he looks into the heart of the TARDIS, and then that power to just literally wipe them out with a thought.
Yeah.
And just erase them, including the Emperor, who is, like, distraught at this point.
Yeah.
Of someone coming against it, and just like erases them to atoms as if they were nothing.
Yeah.
And then floods Jack Harkness with life.
Yeah.
That big beautiful boy's back up on his feet.
Dude, I laughed so hard my headset fell off. Good grief.
And it's like, and then of course we get the kiss where the Doctor takes the power on board.
Yeah.
Because the power is enough to kill.
Yeah.
And it would kill her stone dead, but he can get rid of it. And we say goodbye to Eccleston's Doctor, which the line that you already mentioned, one of the most perfect send-off lines.
Dude, that was so
fantastic,
good, dude.
And you know what? So was I.
Yeah.
And just a
I
smile
felt like that was
after
his
it.
way of, like, saying, like, this was a mistake. You guys are gonna miss me, but I know I did a good job. I did my best.
I like to think that as well. I like to think it was him saying, like, I did a good job, and I know I did a damn good job at this.
Yeah, absolutely. That was
Because
definitely
he
his like legit stamp on the role. Like, that one phrase was his stamp saying, I know I did good.
Yeah, and he was amazing. He did a phenomenal job, and then regenerates, and at the very end we get the first appearance of David Tennant.
Which was, again, as someone who doesn't know anything about the show, I was like, I knew he was coming in subsequent seasons, obviously. It's like, holy crap. He's showing up in episode 13. Okay, we're doing this.
Yeah. That's why I didn't want you to watch the Christmas Invasion, the next episode.
Okay.
Because literally it's the first episode of his run.
Oh, okay.
Because, like, Eccleston is done, like, from here, Tennant's the Doctor. And it's like, it's not... And it's weird, it's not really season 1, it kind of is, but it's kind of the start of season 2.
Yeah.
Because what Doctor Who used to do, back when it was really good, before they decided to mess with the schedule, was it used to have a special on Christmas Day.
Oh,
So, like, Christmas Day in the UK, you sit down and have your Christmas dinner, and then you would sit down with your chocolates and watch Doctor Who in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And it's like, so, like, that was his first appearance, was the first Christmas special. And
that's awesome.
So so it was like, it's a brand new start. So I was like, finish here. That's the perfect finishing point to prep you. And now, if you want to keep watching, you can.
Yeah, I definitely want to keep watching the show, because, like, the whole time I was comparing it to our Firefly review, and, like, the older I get, the more I've come to realize when it comes to sci-fi, I do like sci-fi. I know I like sci-fi. But I like very specific sci-fi that I like, and very rarely do I venture out from that. Like, I'm like Blade Runner, like Matrix, that type of sci-fi. Like, like very visceral, very futuristic. That tends to be the stuff that I gravitate to. Not exclusively, but that tends to be the stuff that I more gravitate to. So stuff like Firefly, which is basically a Western
Yeah.
with sci-fi elements. and then this, which kind of touches on my sweet spot with sci-fi, but also has other stuff that is way more like down-to-earth, story-driven sci-fi. I really enjoyed it way more than I thought I was going to enjoy it when I first started watching it. Because I'll be honest, when I first started watching the first episode, I'm like, oh man, I don't know if I'm going to like this. And I got a couple episodes in, especially the second episode, I'm like, oh, this is not looking good. But again, the longer it went on and the more I kind of hung in with Eccleston, I'm like, man, this is really good.
You need to give it the time to build up, especially with that first season, because it really was finding its footing. If you're not hooked at this point, I guarantee you'll be hooked by the time you get to the end of season 2.
Yeah.
By the time you've watched another season, and like, not just because of Tennant, but Tennant is phenomenal. He's like widely regarded as one of the best Doctors.
Yeah.
But just the way the storytelling is done, the way that Russell T Davies and his team have upgraded at that point, and they're running, and the new elements they're adding in, there's some phenomenal stories in that. It's like, it's good.
I can definitely say that I am hooked. Like, I don't know if I would consider myself a Whovian yet, but I can definitely say that the show has captured my interest, and I definitely want to see where it goes.
I think Doctor Who is one of those sci-fi shows that has a little something for everyone.
Yeah.
Because I think it is honestly probably one of the most unique sci-fi shows out there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and a lot of the stuff in terms of what it offers, what the characters are like, how it's driven, how it's written, how it's portrayed, I'm like, there's not really anything else vastly similar to it.
No.
Like, there's stuff that touches on it, and there's stuff that, like, okay, well, that's got elements of that, that's got elements of that.
Yeah.
And then you think it's like, oh yeah, well, that's copying from that, but this came out in 1963. It's like, so this is actually before that. This is actually before that. This, it's like, this is taking stuff and just modernizing it now. But it's like,
it's really a cool concept. Like, it's funny because, the whole police box thing. Like, they make a comment on it in the show, but obviously that it was the original show came out when those things were kind of still being used, right? Like in the 60s. 50s.
They were still being used, but the whole thing of it is the TARDIS is meant to have a chameleon circuit.
Yeah.
So wherever it lands, it's meant to transform into something.
But originally it transformed into that, and then it got
stuck. So it's been stuck. So it's like at some point it landed in like the 1960s, where there was police boxes.
Yeah.
And it turned into a police box, and then got stuck, and he's been stuck with a police box ever since.
And she's like, "Why don't you fix it?" And he's like, "Nobody's gonna notice. Nobody notices."
But the honest truth is, though, see, that's the amazing thing, though. Like, I love that he kind of says that. Like, he's like, "It's a big blue box. Like, is somebody going to notice that?" And I'm like, "No, you wouldn't notice anything." And it's like, but yeah, think about it. If a big blue box was all of a sudden on a street you walk down every day, you'd maybe go, "Oh, that's weird."
Yeah.
And you get on with your life, you wouldn't give it much thought.
Walking. Yeah.
And I'm like, actually,
you check it out, look inside. Oh, it's an empty box. Okay, got it.
Yeah, it's like, you actually wouldn't give it that much thought. I'm like, he's actually very true, and like, I love that kind of commentary on stuff as well. Of like, it's like, you'd leave something like that in the middle of nowhere, and it's like, or like the one with like the Slovene, like Mickey saying to him, it's like, how can they say this alien thing's a hoax? And it's like because that's what you humans do. It's like, you see something with the evidence right in front of your face, and it's like nah, hoax. It's like,
I love that he calls us dumb, stupid apes like several times.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, Mickey is usually around when he does it.
That's true. Oh, Ricky Bobby.
Poor Mickey, he gets some hassle in the first one. It gets better for him. His character gets better, and he doesn't get quite a lashing going forward. But in season 1, like, Eccleston's doctor does not like him. He's like, I have no time for fools, and you are the ultimate one. Yeah. But yeah, so I think we're pretty much done with most of our major thoughts on the season. So what coming into it as a brand new Who fan, never seen it before, getting to the end of season 1, final thoughts on it, and would you recommend it? Are you going to keep watching it? I know we've kind of touched on some of that, but just to kind of wrap up. Yeah,
so like I said, man, going into it, the only previous thing that I have watched based off of something that I know you were super passionate about, I lost some nerd cred. I get it.
Don't look at me.
No,
Look at them. Look at their sad faces when you say that.
I was very nervous going into this because I knew, like, not only you're a huge fan, a lot of people in the comic lane are a huge fan, but just in general, a lot of people are really huge fans. So I was like, if I don't like this is not going to be good for me. But so I went into it. Like,
Nitro's nerd cred hangs on a thread every week.
I went in with a very open mind. Like, again, taking into consideration this show is almost 20 years old. There's going to be some visual effects that don't kind of like translate to today. Maybe some of the acting might not translate to today too. I don't know. I'm a huge Eccleston fan. So again, right at the beginning, I was like, okay, I love Eccleston.
I'm sorry, I need to read these comment. I was nervous for you going into this. I'm relieved to hear I can continue to respect you.
Well, I'm glad I continue to have your respect.
That's amazing, D. I love it. I love it.
So like, the first couple episodes, I was like, oh, this is not going to be good. This review is just going to be a catastrophe. But again, like, I liked Eccleston from the jump. So from the first episode when he was battling freaking mannequins, and of course there's moving mannequins. But from that first episode and his interaction with Rose's mom throughout the whole episode, or throughout the whole season rather, I felt like he just got better. The episodes got better. I felt like the last half of the season was incredible. I felt like the last episode was the best episode, and even the last half of the last episode was the best part, I think, of the entire season.
Yeah.
So, I definitely want to continue watching it. I'm very interested to see what David Tennant does, because I'm a Dave Tennant fan as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I want to see more of the lore. I want to see more of the mythology. That's what interests me. So yeah, man, I'm excited. I got a new show to watch because all of them are available on HBO Max. So almost said HBO Max. I don't know why I said that.
HBO Max. But that's it as well. Like with Doctor Who, it's like, yeah, you can binge into it. There's like 13 seasons on there, so go nuts now. Chunk says, I still haven't watched it, so you're still cool with me, dude, but I don't have much credibility. No, she still respects you, Chunk. If you watched it and didn't like it, then she'd lose respect for you.
Yeah. But just don't watch it, and then she's in limbo.
Yeah, she's fine.
She's in respect limbo.
She can be a happy medium.
Happy medium. Oh, we're gonna start calling you Ricky Bobby, Chunk. Mickey. I think I know my own name.
Some of the jokes, by the way, the one-liner are just so good.
Dude, he's so quick, man. I wish I was half that quick. But yeah, Eccleston was brilliant.
Yeah, he's amazing.
I think the show excels when it tells stories that are reduced in scope. Again, Father's Day. Obviously, even I would argue, even the last episode is still a what am I trying to say? It's still a small scale story. It's happening in one area. It's happening with when you get down to it, it's happening between the Doctor and the Daleks. That's the main driver of that story.
Oh, that's what I was going to say for that episode before the final one, the second last one, when it looks like when they're trying to break Rose out of like the weakest link place, like the Doctor gets out of his room, and he gets Jack, and then they go for Rose, and it looks like she's been disintegrated. Yeah. And they find out that she's not, and she's with the Daleks. Yeah. And it's like, and basically the Daleks call him when he's up in the command center, and is like, "Yeah, you're going to surrender," and he just says, "No." Yeah. I was like, what?
What did you say?
No.
Come again?
Like, explain. I said no. And it's like, I'm going to get in the TARDIS, and I'm going to come, and I'm going to rescue her. And they're like, that's not possible. Yep. And doesn't that just terrify you? And it's like, holy crap, the Doctor's going to war.
He's a psycho.
The moment he did that, I was like, oh, I'm in. Let's do it.
Yeah, exactly. And I wrote a note. I was like, dang, Rose got dusted. And then right under that, I was like, nope, of course not. Of course you didn't.
Yeah, of course they didn't dust the hot blonde. I love D.
Yeah, man, I'm definitely excited.
Chunk, no, I'm just quietly disappointed. But except that not everybody has the time. dear. But yeah, so thank you everyone for hanging out. That is our review of Doctor Who Season 1. We both highly recommend it. I highly recommended it from the get-go anyway, but it's nice to hear Nitro is a fan, doesn't lose any nerd cred today for once. And that he's a fan. I'm actually really excited. If you guys enjoyed hearing us talk about Doctor Who Season 1 and want to hear us do more, I'm pretty sure we could set this up in like a bi-monthly thing, like every couple of months we'll do a season or something and talk through it. If you guys want to hear more of us talking about Doctor Who, because I'd quite happily sit and chat going into Season 2, 3, 4.
Dude, I'm down.
And go through it. But yeah, this was a lot of fun, man. But we're actually winding down on our 12-hour stream. We've got about just another 40 minutes to go until we hit the 12-hour mark. That's kind of nuts.
Dude, it's crazy. We've done it again. We've gone 12 hours again.
Sierra Miedo.